everybody, welcome back. Happy Thursday. We're almost to the weekend. Woohoo!
Almost.
One more work day. If we can make it through that day. uh, it's been snowing all day. Again, another winter storm watch. So, while pretty and large flakes, it's still a nuisance.
And it's still coming down.
It's still coming down until like 11 o'clock tonight.
And once again, like every single time it snowed, it was like 35 degrees when it started. So it's wet and slushy and heavy.
Yeah, and then we're going to get an Arctic chill.
Yeah.
I actually was just looking at my phone. Do you know how many weather places I follow?
I'm going to say 50.
Okay, these are the ones I follow on the regular. Here, obviously. Champaign, where our daughter goes to college. Antarctica. Just because I like to know like what's going on. So
you want to see how it compares? Find out if it's warmer in Antarctica than it
I
is in
actually was.
Chicago.
I was going to see like, because it's going to be like very cold. And I was like, I wonder how cold it is. However, it's currently minus 35 degrees in Antarctica. And they have...
We've had weather that cold.
We have. So I do follow Antarctica. And then I also follow the Bahamas. It's where we went on vacation.
That's kind of unfair.
Yeah. They're in the 80s all this week and sunny, 84 and sunny. So that's not...
And when we went there a couple of years ago, I mean, it was very nice, but it was actually a little bit cool because there had been a big storm. We were there in March.
We were, and the water was a little bit chilly.
Right, because the storm had driven cooler water into the area.
Yeah.
And then that actually kept the air temperatures down. So it was like low 70s most of the time.
Which was still delightful.
Yeah, sure.
Compared to that. New York City, 37 and clear. They're like 30s, so that's pretty normal for this winter.
But they got more snow than we did.
They got way more snow than we did.
Last storm, so we can't really complain.
And then I followed Paris. Even before our daughter was going to go there, I've always followed their weather. And currently now they're like 50s and 40s, so that's not bad.
I think it's a lot milder there than it is here in the winter, although they get winter, obviously. Do you know what happened 40 years ago today?
Okay, what's the date today? February 4th.
February 4th. So February 4th of 1980, when I was a senior in high school.
I do not know.
The Ramones released the album End of the Century.
Okay.
Which I wasn't thinking about. I actually don't own that one. Well, I do now because I downloaded it.
Okay, I'm writing it down so I can wear it for a Christmas light for your birthday.
No, I have it now. It's on. It's on my phone. But I have a lot of the early or like the mid 70s to late 70s albums, the first 3 or 4. But for some reason I don't, and this one was pretty well known at the time, so it surprises me that I somehow never got around to actually buying it, but I downloaded it today.
That's awesome.
And what's funny about it, this is, by the way, the deluxe version, which includes some demos and things like that. So this is not the actual original version that was released in the record stores way back when. But I think it's funny because there's a song, the title of the album, End of the Century, comes from the first song on the album, which actually was pretty well known, which is called Do You Remember Rock and Roll Radio? That's a whole other story. Yeah. But it's funny because the lyric goes, it's the end of the 70s, it's the end of the century. And it really is funny because it did seem like very futuristic going from 1979 to 1980. It's a weird thing to think about now, but at the time, it really was like the 80s were the future, right? Mm-hmm. Because, you think about the George Orwell novel, 1984. It just seemed weird, all of a sudden we were in the 80s. So that's kind of funny.
So I'll have to listen to that.
And it's one of that long tradition of, I don't think anybody does it anymore, but everybody at one point in time wrote a song about the radio.
Yes.
Right? Like Elvis Costello had the song Radio Radio, which he got banned from Saturday Night Live for playing it in 78 or 79.
Why? Because
he wasn't supposed to. It's so dumb. That song is critical of the radio.
And so
now when you hear it today,
right?
He was told not to play it. So he comes out and he starts playing a different song. I think it was a song from his second album. I can't remember which one. Or maybe it was Less Than Zero. I don't remember. He starts playing a different song. And then he stops and he waves off the band and he says something about the name of the show, led me to believe it was live because they had him on like a 2-second delay or something like that. Anyway, then he launches into radio, but they couldn't
What
pull
can you
the
do?
plug.
It's like on.
Right, and it's a live show, so there's nothing they can do. So he played it, but then Lorne Michaels actually banned him from Saturday Night Live for like years and years and years. I think he's been on since.
That is so dumb.
Oh, yeah. But so he had that song. Cheap Trick had On the Radio. The Clash, Capitol Radio. I can't think of other examples, but there's all those songs about, calling in, talking to the DJ, or the song We're Having a Party, but that's not like the entire song isn't about the radio. But yeah, it was a great tradition back in the old
It's
days.
funny because this week I listened to the radio because I drove our son to school. He commutes to college in the city, and just with COVID, we don't want to take the train, whatever. So anyway, so I listened to the radio, and the radio station I normally listen to, like I've told you before, I love pop music, loved it all my life, is like a pop radio thing, and it is still like 5 songs that they play. It's so weird, and it's like going down, same song, and then I get back in the car like 4 hours later, and I turn on the car, and it's the same song that I just listened to, and I was like, how is this radio? Like, how is it fun when you can only listen to like 5 songs?
And now you don't have to listen to the radio since there's so many other alternatives.
I know, and we still have to figure out. We have Sirius XM radio in our car, and we've never really set it up like the. Why are they crying? I
don't know, but they're making a lot of noise. I guess Gordy got down off the chair. She was nearby us, and now she ran away.
Oh. And Waffle's like, what's going on? Our cats. What was I going to say? I started to say something about the radio.
We'll cut all this out. We'll edit it out. You won't even know.
But it's weird that it's just like the same songs on there. Oh, the Sirius XM radio. So I know there's a lot of bells and whistles on there, but we've only like saved a few channels. So, and then when we're in the car, it's difficult because
you can't really coast around trying to find stuff.
Yeah, and you're just kind of like scrolling the next thing, and you're like, no. So I need to get like a map of like what all the stations are, so we can like kind of.
As much as I like the Subaru generally, I don't think the audio interface is very good because, I mean, you can do voice commands. I've made phone calls that way. Where you say call so-and-so or whatever, and that's fine. Obviously your phone has to be plugged in because it has to have the contacts, list. But if you have someone in your contacts, you can do
you could be like
voice command. I called Margaret when we were bringing the cats down to their old cat to the vet. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. But I find like if you're listening to music that's on your phone or you're trying to, it's too. You absolutely can't drive and do it.
No.
And even if it's, the person in the passenger seat, it's still not as intuitive as you'd like.
It isn't.
In the old days, just press buttons.
I know.
Or turn to dial. It was very simple. And you could turn the dial while you were driving because you didn't have to look at it. You could just listen to it.
I was thinking about this after. I wonder if there's like an app on your phone that can sync to your car that you can actually like, almost like a remote where you can pick a song or pick a station from your phone.
But I wouldn't want to do that while I was driving.
Yeah.
It would be easy for the person in the passenger seat. I think the thing to do is, someone has to come up with an app and maybe it already exists, where you can program it. So, you're going to listen to this station for this period of time and then switch to,
right.
Music that you downloaded or whatever, or just have all the music queued up. I mean, you could create a playlist, but I mean, that would be kind of, that's like the old days when we made mixtapes all the time, Not mixtapes like in the hip hop terminology where it's someone's original music, but mixtapes of.
I will tell a very fun story. So for our wedding, David made all music for it and actually recorded and put on.
I wrote it all.
You sang it.
I composed the soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's not true.
But we had, so we recorded all the music that was going to be played at our reception.
Although you could call it a soundtrack, because in a movie there's a difference between the soundtrack and the score. The soundtrack are like the individual songs that are featured.
So you had to, from a record, then put it on a cassette tape, right? And then that's what you
everything, in that time, everything I think was on CD, which was a lot easier.
Yeah.
To
Oh yeah, of course,
record
those
from
are
CD to cassette tape. And if you go back far enough, we used to do it with albums all the time, and that took some real skill.
And it worked because everyone was having so much fun dancing at our wedding. We ended up staying at the place longer than we had rented out for. So, your mixing skills were fantastic.
Yeah, there you go. The other thing people would do if you go back to like the 80s and 90s is you can record music on a blank VHS cassette, but it's like depending on the quality of the, like I care, but you could record like up to 5 hours on a blank cassette, or I think if you record it at a higher speed, it's like 3 hours. It's supposed to sound better.
Huh.
I don't have the ability to tell, but the point is, you could connect your VCR to your stereo system the same way you connect a tape deck, and then record directly on the VHS cassette.
Interesting.
And make these 3 and 4 hour long mixtapes. So if you're having a party, you just put it in. You have to have your stereo speakers connected.
Right.
Because you wouldn't want to play it back to the TV.
Probably not.
But that was a common thing.
That is so funny. I guess I don't remember that.
And it was better quality supposedly than just a little cassette. Like,
right.
I don't know. It's like when people first went back to vinyl from CDs. I have this colleague, a co-worker guy who was a lot younger than me. It's not that young anymore. But I can't remember. We were both working on a Saturday, and I don't know. He had bought a new car or something like that. He wanted to show me the new car, whatever. We were at his apartment briefly. He had bought this like really cool older Audi. It was actually a really neat car. But anyway, that was Matt. You remember Matt? They didn't really use the term hipster back then, but Matt would have been the definition of a hipster at the time.
Absolutely.
So he had this really elaborate, complicated turntable setup, and he had all these albums on vinyl. And this was 1997, 1998, maybe. We were already married at the time. And he was like, oh, no, you gotta listen to music on vinyl. It's so much better sound, this, that, and the other thing. I had no clue what he was talking about. But I do remember it was one of those things where he said, okay, so listen. He puts the record on, and then you can't move because it'll skip. It was super sensitive, and he paid thousands and thousands of dollars for this turntable. Now you buy the all-in-one kind of thing, the little Audio-Technica thing. You plug speakers directly into the turntable. You don't have to have any other component parts, and they're like indestructible, and they don't skip.
And affordable.
And it's affordable. And they put out albums on this heavier vinyl, this 180 gram vinyl. And I think, I'm no expert, but I think that is one of the reasons why records don't scratch and they don't skip anymore.
And I think that's a fun part of like having records being popular again. It is nice to have a record, but then they also have the digital downloads, so you can put it on your phone. So at least you get both.
And then it screws up your music. On
yeah,
your
right
iPhone.
too. Yeah.
But this was just a direct download from iTunes, so it doesn't screw anything up. But
I can't believe it's 40 years. That's the long time.
Yeah.
I actually just got a thing, so my 35th high school reunion, COVID related, is going to be in September sometime. So that's kind of weird too, because like 35 seems like a lot.
Here, will it work? This is how they did all these. Every song was about a radio. It had to sound like they were on the radio. So it sounds like it's switching to.
Yeah.
You can see the little sound.
Yeah. I definitely know that song.
Yeah, it was one of the few songs of theirs that actually made it onto the radio. They were well known, but more through word of mouth and all that sort of thing. One of the original punk acts that played at CBGB's in New York.
And I actually saw the Ramones in Tinley Park, and it was like one of those things where it was like 3 or 4 different kind of acts. I don't even know who else was there besides the Ramones, but I didn't know them. And then when I got there and I liked them, I was like, shoot, I wish I had known their music before, which is always unfortunate if you go to a concert not knowing what the music is going to be and you end up liking it, but you can't sing along.
Oh, look at this.
Sing along.
Look at this. I was just going to say, okay, so I saw the Ramones in college in 1981. And through the magic of the internet, someone actually posted a video that's supposedly from October 1, 1981, although they posted it in the date is in the British form, 01/10/1981. But it was October 1st, 1981. And there's a live video of the Ramones supposedly at what we knew as the Auditorium building. Now it's called the Follinger Auditorium. And it's the full concert. It's an hour and 7 minutes long.
Wow.
And the song they opened with is "Do You Remember Rock and Roll Radio?" The very song we just played. Yeah, I was at that show. That's hilarious. Yeah.
Okay, so that's not the main stadium. That's not where we drive.
No, that's the building with the dome on the quad.
Yes.
So the opposite, so the Atlanta Union building is at one end of the quad, the main quad.
Yes.
And the auditorium is at the other end. It's got a big dome, and they use it, like as a lecture hall for really large classes, but it's designed to be a music hall. That's so funny. So through the magic of the internet, I now can relive the Ramones live. I went with my friend Mark Balthazar, and we missed the opening act, which was a local band called the Verticles. People loved that band. I don't really remember them, but they were a local Champaign band.
My whole entire life.
They opened for the Ramones. They were kind of like new wavy, sort of alternative, whatever.
The Vertebrates.
The Vertebrates. They opened when they used to play all the time at the same place.
Was it a men and women group, or was it all guys? Or
that's a good question because I don't really remember. I never actually saw them because I missed. It's all one word. I missed the opening act. Mark and I missed the opening act because I was trying to study. This is kind of pathetic in a way. The auditorium building where the concert was is near the library, the main library and what they call the undergraduate library. So I went to the library to study for a math quiz because it was a Thursday night, I think. Or it was a weeknight anyway. And maybe it was, I don't know. It wasn't a weekend in any event. So I had a math quiz the next day, so I went to study. And then went to the concert, and we had a great time.
Okay, so it says the Vertebrates were a musical group formed in the Twin Cities of Champaign-Urbana, Illinois.
We call them the Twin Cities.
Initially active from 1979 until 1982, so short-lived. I was thinking, did they carry on? They did not. They are credited with being one of the originators of a local CU DIY music scene that still exists. That's funny, and I believe it's looks like all dudes.
And I think I think they were okay, but I just never saw them.
That is so funny.
They would play at a place called Mabel's, which was on the main street in what they call Campus Town on Green Street. And my brother's band used to play at Mabel's all the time.
And we actually, wait, that's still there?
No, it's not. I mean, the physical space is still there.
Yeah, we walked by there.
But the club is closed. Yeah. I think that, they had one of the venue was on the second floor, so
but
you went upstairs.
But they were probably closed before COVID, that's
so
it wasn't like a thing like they.
But they had a big sign that you could put letters on to like a marquee sign, like they have at Metro.
Yeah.
It said Maples on it. They played there, and I want to say that REM played there back in the olden days. I think the Go-Go's played there. I know Gary U.S. Bonds played there when he was making his big comeback. Nobody remembers Gary Bonds anymore, but he's fantastic.
I do not know.
Well, he's an old-time soul singer, but it turns out that he's one of Bruce Springsteen's main inspirations. That's why Bruce does these elaborate stage shows, and there's a lot of performance that goes into it because he was really inspired by that old R&B kind of thing like James Brown and Gary Bonds. And Gary Bonds made a big comeback in maybe 1980, 81. He had an album that came out, a few albums, and Bruce produced it and Little Steven produced it, and they're all over, the E Street Band is all over there. But Gary Bonds, without the members of the E Street Band,
Right.
E Street Band played at Maples too.
So was it like a Fitzgerald's kind of place?
Very much,
Okay.
yeah.
There's a local place by us. It's kind of like just like a small stage, but you can fit like a bunch of people on there.
And
then just like some seats, but then standing in front of the stage and dancing.
I made my rock and roll debut on the stage at Maples.
You did?
We were there. My brother's band was playing. They were kind of like this British Invasion throwback thing. They played a lot of Beatles and Stones and Who and stuff like that. And they were playing Satisfaction. And we were near the front of the stage. My sister, I think, was there because she went to vet school there when I was an undergraduate. And the other guitar, Tom was the lead guitar player and he sang a lot. The rhythm guitar player, this guy, Kevin Mantegna, who is actually in a band now called Liverpool Legends. Kevin reached down and just like with one arm pulled me up onto the stage. I have no idea why. We were just being goofy. I mean, I went to see him all the time, and so I think he was trying to be nice.
Did he give you a tambourine or something?
No, but I did sing.
Okay.
I did sing, just background.
Spoons.
I think my brother was singing the lead part, and Kevin and the other guys were doing
That's
that.
hilarious.
Yeah.
That was your rock and roll debut.
Yeah, it was probably like 83 or something. Yeah.
That's fun.
Or maybe it was, I may have already been in law school at that point. But in any event, yeah, they used to play
Good
there all the
times.
time. But the Ramones, so far as I know, did not play at Maples, but they did play at the auditorium on campus, and that was a great concert. And I still remember it to this day.
And I think even when I went to school, I went to Iowa State for a year, but they concert tickets were not that expensive for students, so it wasn't like something that you would just spend a couple $100s to go see. But I do remember a bunch of my friends, I did not go because they wanted to see Bon Jovi, and I was like, no, thank you. I will not spend my money on that.
I feel bad for them because John Bon Jovi seems to be one of the nicer people in music, and he seems to have a conscience and all that.
Yeah.
But I just, think of all the great acts that came from New Jersey, and then there's Bon Jovi. I'm sorry. I feel terrible about that. And people were very upset, speaking of Bon Jovi, because they did a cover of a Pogues song, the Pogues Christmas song called Fairy Tale of New York, and there's a verse that has a slur in it that arguably, I'm not going to say it, but arguably in the UK and Ireland at the time that this song came out didn't necessarily have the same meaning that it has today. Anyway, now a lot of times it's played on the radio, they bleep that out. And the BBC does apparently, and that caused a big controversy in the UK. Anyway, so Bon Jovi did a cover, or John Bon Jovi did a cover of it, and he changed the word, which is fine. But people were really upset about him because, they thought it wasn't as authentic. And I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah.
Just trying not to be a jerk, that's all.
Exactly.
But the Ramones show was a great show.
That's awesome. We our next show is last week. We were all psyched for it, and our tattoo is happening on Saturday. Tattoos. Although remember when we said tattoo?
Yeah, we're just gonna get one.
Just get one, and I was gonna be like half a heart on mine, half a heart on his. Just one tattoo.
That way we'll never get lost. It's like with twins, and they have two halves of a locket or whatever, and they lose track of one another, and then they find each other and put the locket.
I've said that so many times, like we're getting tattoo. We're getting tattoos.
We're getting tattooed.
Yes.
Because it can be a verb.
Yes, on Saturday. So we go to 11 a.m. On Saturday. So we'll see how much we can actually videotape there or tape there.
And then next time it snows, we'll just do a live video out in the snow while we shovel.
Yeah, or we'll do
we'll complain about
time lapse of the snow.
No, I want to do it live, and I want to complain about it because I'm getting tired of this winter already. Yeah. And we only have 8. We missed. I know. We missed Groundhog Day.
I don't know what happened.
Of course, he saw his shadow or whatever.
So we have 6 more weeks, but
6 more weeks. And I'm like, I could have. You didn't need a groundhog to tell you there's going to be 6 more weeks of winter.
Yeah.
It's February. Of course, there's going to be.
Crazy town. So we're looking forward to that. It's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be awesome. And so we will share that on Saturday. So I hope you enjoyed our talk about music and such. It's so funny because it's like, I didn't know what we were going to talk about. I mean, we could talk probably for another hour or so. So we figured it out, and I hope you guys have a good rest of the night.
I was just going to mention the fact that album came out 40 years ago.
I know, but then
it took me by surprise when I saw that.
So that was a good topic. Thanks. So have a good rest of the night, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.